Thank you to the sponsors of this bipartisan bill. It's important, and I just want to take the time to highlight why it's so important. There's obviously vast agreement in this committee that Russia is not our friend, and that through third-party actors, it's likely that they've been responsible for a variety of attacks on our infrastructure, including the Colonial Pipeline. And that concerns us, and this bill helps address that issue. But it's also worth highlighting the broader geopolitical challenge that we're facing with respect to Russia. It's not just in these cyber attacks that they're trying to hurt us. They're also trying to spin false narratives about the oil and gas industry. And this, of course, I didn't get to speak before on this, my own fault, but it is related. And it's worth pointing out that pipelines are so important to our energy infrastructure and to our energy independence, and important to global emissions too. The primary way to reduce emissions with respect to methane, for instance, would be to stop flaring and put that into a pipeline. Our own national laboratories have done studies on this and shows that Russian natural gas has well over 40% more emissions than US natural gas with just cleaner producers. And so it is simply not true that these supposedly high-minded environmentalists in France, for instance, working for Engie, declined to do business with Texas LNG companies because of our emissions. And I got them to admit this privately to me, by the way, that the real reason was geopolitical concerns. That's what they said. The Russians are trying to outcompete us, both economically in that sense and also in a more malicious way through these cyber attacks. Our committee needs to be fully aware of that so that we can come together as Americans and say, look, we should be the ones providing cleaner energy to the world, because there are certain facts we cannot escape, such as the fact that global demand will increase, energy demand will increase by at least 25% in the next 20 years. If we continue to see that energy dominance to places like Russia, to places like Iran, which I just got word that we lifted sanctions on their energy production, by the way. Lifting sanctions on Nord Stream 2, that's also not a good thing. We're ceding that energy dominance to them. This will increase global emissions. That is something we cannot ignore on the subcommittee for the environment, as well as the select committee on climate change. I do believe these are problems we must address, but we have to think about how we're doing it, and maybe the unintended consequences of some of these policies. But thank you all for supporting this bill. I think it's a great bill and good show of bipartisanship. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next.